Well guys, welcome back to Spank Ranch Garage. Not much gets me out of bed to go drifting these days, but I do have an opportunity coming up to drive a track that I've always wanted to drive and it's never been open to drifting. So let's get started on that. Let's get this drift car dug out of the weeds and see what it's going to take to make it run again. All right, have any furry visitors in here? I didn't see anything scurry away. Gonna need a battery. So the track I'm looking to go to is at New Jersey Motorsports Park. And historically, over the last 14 or so years that I've been involved with drifting, there's only been a handful of guys that have actually been able to arrange drift days or events at New Jersey Motorsports Park. And it's very, very few and far between outside of competition when you could just find a fun day to go there and try it. So I think I have that set up for this coming Sunday. I think it's going to be on the Lightning circuit, which is not my first pick for drifting. I'd rather be on the Thunderbolt circuit, but beggars can't be choosers. Overall, just be excited to get there and put some laps down. This car and my wagon have been there many times in the past, and almost every time I was pretty well asked to leave. And that was just for, getting a little too hairy on like an HPDE day, but on a dedicated drift day, my behavior should be more than welcome. So hopefully we can have some fun. But the car's got a couple issues we got to go over. Actually, a lot of issues. This poor girl, just neglect. So let's get started on fixing this up. It looks like it's an inner tie rod again. I swear if the amount I drive this car, it sure eats suspension components. Yeah, that's no good. It's a rather undesirable amount of play. Got a lollipop blown out of that side. We got a smidge of up and down, which may even be bearing. I think we got a bad inner on this side too. Like, what the heck is going on with that? That's undesirable. The other thing that was noticed last event was the diff feels mighty sloppy. And yeah. Front bushing's pretty well blown out. It's just about gone as well. So it's gonna need a set of diff bushings. No, I do not run aftermarket bushings. Everything's way stronger with these stock bushings. You gotta change them every 5-10 years, but we got an axle seep in here? Well, that's undesirable. diff's back in. All is well. Just about ready to drop this on the ground, put some oil in it. Ooh, that's undesirable. That one's got a smidge of life left in it, but let's change these while we're here. All right, I want you guys to hear this thing cranking without the ECU turned on, and you'll hear that noticeable compression loss on cylinder 4. I'm curious if you think it sounds any better than it did in the last video, now that the engine's got some runtime on it with that cylinder firing again. And then we'll do a cold start. I'll show you how great this thing starts and idles, even though that one cylinder is so hurt. Now we're starting her up. Runs on all 6 cylinders very smoothly. AFRs, low 13s, everything's looking pretty. I don't know, I think she's ready, as ready as it's gonna be. Let's hope that cylinder starts to come back to life. She's a ripper like she used to be. Feels really good. A little shimmy up front, probably a bent front wheel, but steering's nice and tight now. The diff feels awesome. No slop, no play. You know, second gear, third gear clutch kicks, 400-foot rolling burnouts. She does it all just like she used to. Needs an alignment, and then it's ready to go on the trailer. Let's get it aligned. All right, good morning. It's race day. We got the old turd smuggler loaded up. Got a couple tires, some fuel. The truck's ready to rip. Let's grab some food and hit the road. turbo finally pooped the bed. I've been waiting for that because it's been a little hairy for a couple seasons, and finally did it. She's taking on a lot of oil. We're blowing it out the blow-off valve. There's literally oil coming out of here all day. So that'll be the end of this event. So we're just heading out of the track now. Overall, good day. I'm happy with it. I'm a little bummed that I smoked this turbo probably, I don't know, 12 laps in. So I really didn't get to put down the lines I was shooting for on this track, but I was just happy to be here. This is the first time we've drifted this track in over 10 years. As far as I know, and if anybody knows differently, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if there's been actually any drift events held on the Lightning course at NJMP. It actually flows pretty good. It is definitely a steep learning curve, and you can probably, really you're gonna drift turns 2 through 6, and then you're gonna drive a little bit, then drift turn 7. But they had us locked down from 2 to 6, and then later in the day they opened up turn 7 to us, just because that's where the spectators sit, and it's pretty lame because they can't see anything. The spectators can't see anything here. Not that this is really a spectator event, but anyway, I got a 2-hour drive home. I'll pull this turbo out and see how bad the damage is. This did happen about 5 years ago. I burned this turbo up, and that was due to a pinched oil line. And on that one, I killed the turbine and the compressor wheel, and I had to replace them both along with the center cartridge, but the housings were okay. We'll see how it looks this time around. That turbo, you know, it's been on borrowed time for a little bit, and I gambled with it, and here we are. It happens. So we'll see if it's rebuildable. If it's not, I'll have to get another turbo for it. Historically, New Jersey Motorsports Park has not been friendly to drifting. There has been a handful of events over the last 15 years, I would say. Very few. A couple of guys have had the opportunity to go drift the track, but as for an actual public event, doesn't really happen. It has not happened, at least that I know of, in the last 10 years that I've had the opportunity to go to. Outside of competition, I think they did have a couple competitions here, but typically those are on Thunderbolt circuit, and today's action was on Lightning, which is not my favorite track. I have a lot of laps on Thunderbolt from other forms of motorsport, whether it be Lemons Racing or just like, you know, hobbyist HPDE stuff. So Lightning works. It works though. It is challenging, but that's kind of what keeps me coming back to drifting, is when I get an opportunity to run a new track, I'm usually always game, because it's fun to kind of pioneer the line and figure out how to run it, and you can progress very quickly, because like, I know how to drift, I've done drifting, but when you step on a new track and there's nobody there to show you the line, like there's not a legacy here where you know, some of the other tracks I run, like at Club Loose, at Englishtown, there's been guys drifting that for, you're coming on 20 years now. So what the line that works and how to do it is very well established. So all you need to do is replicate that. But when you come out to tracks that haven't been drifted or haven't been publicly drifted, you got to make your own line, you got to figure it out, and it is tough. This was a very grippy track. I can't believe it. I mean, typically where I go, I'm more than happy with my 400 horsepower E36. And today I was actually wishing I brought the boost controller to turn it up a little bit. Wow, someone already did a ton of donuts out here. Assholes. See, this is why these takeover kids are just total retards. Look at this. These were not here this morning. These are all takeover kids. Right, they all had the same opportunity that I did to sign up for a drift event and go demonstrate their skills and capabilities on the track, but they don't. They just come to the event, rev their engines, and then do burnouts and donuts in the street. I get it. I've done burnouts and donuts on the street, but you don't do it right at the front gate of a motorsports park. You're just an idiot, and nobody likes you. But there is a whole generation of people that are into that, so whatever. Well, it's been 2 or 3 months since the drift event where the turbo went, and I just parked it in the weeds. As you can see, looking good. Anyway, let's see if the turbo fixed itself. You know it didn't. That's undesirable. Got this thing yanked out of the car. Not a fun job on a bottom mount e36. Anyway, you can see the turbine side of this thing is flying around in here. It's actually kind of weird. It's like only some of the balls are gone. It actually has like one direction it's okay, and then the X it's not. Anyway. So this is a Garrett GT3076R with the TO4B compressor housing. It's a little more compact. I got this out of a junkyard Chevy Cobalt probably 10 years ago at this point for like 50 bucks. And I ran it for like 6 years, and then I had an oil line failure, smoked the bearings out of it. I put a Chinese bearing in it, and I got another 5 years out of it. This thing doesn't owe me anything. This time I'm going to replace the whole center cartridge. I hope the housings are good. First glance, it looks like the wheels took all the damage, but we will see when we get this thing open. I'm already thinking in hindsight I should have bought a complete turbo. I did only buy a center cartridge, expecting to reuse my housings, and that may not pay off here. Cool. Warm. Oil City, baby. Alright, compressor housing survived, which I'm very happy with. So that's one thing I'm going to have to buy. Exhaust housing, I'd never seen a wheel chew up an exhaust housing before, but anything is possible. I didn't run it too long this way. And there's evidence of contact, but nothing I'm going to worry about. So this one's probably going to break off. Drilling these remaining 5 out will be fun. The Pulsar has arrived. This is a 3076 Gen 2 center housing. At least that's what I bought. This might have a billet compressor wheel, which this one does not have, but dimensionally I believe it's the same. I believe it's just a replica of a Garrett 3076 Gen 2. Yeah, it is a billet wheel. Definitely different geometry on the compressor side, but that's okay. PSR, Pulsar, serial number, yada, yada, yada. Feels and sounds really good. This one, even after the rebuild, had a noise in the bearings. So, do some dimensional checking on this, but I think this will be the ticket here. Well, right off the bat, we've got a concern here. The wheel does not actually fit this compressor housing. I have a little bit of interference. You have to play this stuff insanely gently. That does not fit. So the inducer on this is larger. The inducer is larger than what I had, which is interesting. I wasn't aware there was a change to that. Yeah, this thing flops around in there and that one won't even fit. I hope the exhaust side is right. That's a bummer. I guess I could machine this to potentially fit. Man, that's going to be tough because I think I have to change a lot of geometry here as well. But I guess I don't have anything to lose to try it, because if I have to order a compressor cover, I guess I can. Don't know how quick I can get one. Oh, the gloves are off now. Got this thing trued up this way, and we're running on center. So I'll punch the inside out a little bit. Just carefully test fit. I have a feeling I'm going to have to do some contouring here, maybe with sandpaper or whatever. I don't even know how much clearance a turbo should have. I don't know. Never did this. Really did not want to get into this. But I really got nothing to lose because I'm never going to use this compressor housing for anything again, so. I opened this up to 58.5 millimeters, and the tips make it in now. It goes in a lot further, but it will still bind before seating. So I'm just very gently using some marking compound here to see where we're going to be touching at. And it looks like I'm going to have to start radiusing this. And this radiusing is going to be a little tricky because I want to have clearance at the end. I don't know what that clearance is. I mean, a ball bearing turbo can probably be fairly tight. But do you want a millimeter on either side of the wheel? Do you want a half? I don't have that information. I'd have to do some research, talk to some people. So after calling around, doing some research, it looks like the way I'm going about this is pretty standard for the guys that have done this. Not that a lot of people do this. Clearance-wise, I want to see about 3/4 of a millimeter overall. And that's what Turbo Lab of America recommends for a similar ball bearing turbo. You'd probably want to go more on an oil bearing. So my thought is this tape is about 0.18, 0.17 millimeters thick. So 2 layers of this would mean I'm pretty well at dimension. So 3/4 of a millimeter total diameter. You cut that in half for your radius. We want to be about, 37.37 millimeters or so. So I'll put 2 of these layers of tape. That'll get me in the ballpark. So once I can turn this without this tape touching, then I know that I have that ample clearance. So right now it clears, but we want to add additional clearance for shaft deflection, bearing wear, deflection, in and out, all around. If the blades flex on the wheel or just contaminants flying past them. You don't want it to be a perfect fit. There does need to be some clearance there. So I think in this case it's better to err on the side of caution and go bigger than as to go smaller. Smaller will hurt you, bigger will just hurt efficiency, something I'll probably never notice on this low boost beater of a drift car. Working my way in, I'm up to 2 layers of tape now. Just about there. Just the most gentle drag. And the Sharpie allows me to see where on the tape we were dragging. So I'm still a little high along this point here, and I've got a little drag point there. We may still be touching just a smidge. We are just a smidge. So I know that right here, I've got 31 10,000ths of a millimeter, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I'm working in millimeters. I don't usually work in millimeters, but I got 0.31 millimeters of clearance at those two spots. I've got more elsewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and just give that another touch, and we are done. Beautiful thing here. We made it happen, and I'm about 98% confident that that's going to work great. Alright guys, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel here on this, what has become a custom turbo build. So drilled out all 6 bolts, well 5 of the broken ones, retapped the 6th one, that all fits nice. I got some grade 8 hardware to put in here, and then some high nickel content. Never seized, so maybe this will come apart next time. Luckily, the exhaust housing is a perfect fit. Yep. Drops right in nice. She looks good. And then finally, our super duper custom compressor housing. That drops on as well. And everything spins as it should. Clearances definitely look tight in there, but we will see. I can see air all the way around it, about 2 layers of tape, so should be all right. Oh yeah, quick note before I button this thing up. So I want to talk balancing marks, assembly balancing, and component balancing. So you'll see, well, we'll look at my old one since this is together. See how there's grind marks on the back of the turbine here, right? The turbine's one piece with the shaft, and that's ground to balance the component. Then on the wheel, you've got grinding marks there. That second nut is the wheel. That is to balance the wheel. But you'll notice that the nut has no balancing marks on it because I just had this component balanced, not assembly balanced. On this turbo, you can see that we have marks here on the wheel, but then we also have marks on the nut to fine-tune the assembly. So a decent turbo, not saying this turbo is decent, but it's headed in the right direction. Is to component balance these, assemble them in the center section, and then spin it and high-speed balance it again, and that's what those marks are on that nut. So I am confident that this turbo is balanced as an assembly and is probably honestly going to be quite a bit better than my Hodgepodge Garrett that I built 5 years ago. I want to get this thing strapped down on the dyno and start making a couple pulls. It is so smoky right now, and I'm hoping that's because there's so much oil in the exhaust and the whole intake, the intercooler, everything's full of oil. So hopefully after a couple pulls this thing cleans up, but right now it is rolling coal. So that's a little discouraging, but hopefully that's just all residual. I mean, there's oil blowing out of the blow-off valve, all kinds of crap right now. So hopefully we can get this thing cleared out, check the tune, make sure it makes comparable power, maybe more, and make sure it's safe, and then we'll take it on a little road trip. thing I'm noticing is I've got clean air coming out of the wastegate, and I've got smoky turds coming out the back. So that makes me feel pretty good. The wastegate is pre-turbo on the manifold, and I think a lot of this is just the quart or two of oil that made its way into the exhaust after this turbo went out. So I'm gonna hook up the computer, let's see how she does for power. It's making the same boost, about 14, 15 PSI, and AFR looks a smidge leaner than where I left it. It's like 11.6, 11.5. I typically run these cars closer to the bottom 11s, high 10s, just in a drift application. So we may be pushing a little more air, but the dyno will tell. This one's gonna be tough to see, guys, but anyway, October 20th, 2022. Ironically, today is October 21st, 2023. So back then, on a fresh motor, old turbo, it made 421, 429. So first hit out of the garage with the new turbo, made 435, 434. Torque came on just a smidge later, 30 RPMs later. Power about 100 RPMs later. However, once I started to heat soak it, she dropped down to about 423, 415. I was still correcting the fueling at this point. And then I brought the dyno fan out, threw that on the intercooler, and final hit at 437, 439. So I know I had the fan on last time I did this. Outdoor conditions are pretty similar. We got 68 degrees temperature, 51% humidity, and pressure 979. Where we had a little better pressure last year, a little less humidity, and a little better temperature. So really, you can't really make any conclusions over 10 foot-pounds of torque and 15 horsepower, but this does at least prove to me that this is a very comparable setup, if not a smidge better, which is kind of what I expected. You got 1 millimeter more on the inducer, and you've got a little different wheel geometry, and it's a billet wheel. It doesn't seem to spool any quicker. Nothing really seems different about it. The car drives exactly like it used to. The spool up here, I mean, you can't even tell the lines apart. They're identical. So you peak out a little differently, but otherwise, really just not much change, which is what I wanted. I really wanted a exact replacement turbo. It turned out to be a project, just like everything else that I do. But anyway, it's in there. It hasn't exploded yet. The smoke has cleared up substantially, though I still do get some smoke on D-cell. The other thing that we didn't really talk about is the fact that this motor has low compression on cylinder 5, I think it was. There's a video on that when I had a bad lifter and washed that cylinder down. So I'm sure we are taking on some oil from cylinder 5, but overall, a very driftable car again. I'll take it out this Friday to an event, and if it holds up, we're headed to Alabama. I don't know if I'm going to film it, though, because every time I film a drift event, it's terrible. The car breaks, everything goes wrong. Drifted for like 12 years leading up to this, never really had these problems. As soon as you break out the camera, there's pistons flying apart, there's turbos flying apart, there's diffs blowing up, just nonstop. So, well guys, this poor old girl is back from the grave once again. I keep telling myself, how much longer am I gonna do this? I don't know, I'm getting pretty tired of it. Literally just on the last dyno pull, now I have a massive power steering leak, so I gotta go back into the shop and address that. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this kind of stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you out at the local drift track maybe. Thanks for watching Spank Ranch Garage.